Good evening. This is Wednesday, and this is the lecture for tomorrow's class, Thursday the 12th. The following information was taken from our textbook, but also from a website, www.diegorivera.org, and the book Frida Kahlo by Claudia Bauer that was out in 2007. Surrealism was still going on in the years after World War I. This is seen in the art of Frida Kahlo, renowned Mexican painter. Yet I will begin with the overview of muralists in general. If you go to page 507, you can follow some of this. Just as art in the 19th century was thought about bringing about a better society. There was a cooperative collection of artists who wanted to be like from the song We Are the Children, to make a better day for you and me. Well, they wanted a better day. The horrors of World War I could only be erased, they believed, through art. These artists believed, as in our textbook, they could create a new environment for living, one that was completely modern, purged of associations with the past, and comfortable with the new spirit of the machine age. One muralist who definitely benefited from the spirit of the machine age was Diego Rivera. But we'll see later on about what I mean about that comment. This artist was aligned with the revolutionaries who toppled the old regime in Mexico. As the new government concentrated on the needs of ordinary workers, ideas of social conscience and economic reform epitomized this new revolutionary government, and Diego Rivera, who had lived in Madrid, Spain, on and off in Paris, and also in Paris, France, was influenced initially by the art of Goya, El Greco, and Velázquez, and we've all studied about these artists, so the names should be familiar. Then his art took a turn through his travels in Paris. He was influenced by his contemporaries, the guys he knew, actually, Mondrian, Modigliani, and Modigliani's wife, Jean Hepworth. His styles changed, and he utilized the elements of Cubism, which we know about too. Furthermore, he was influenced by Picasso, here we go, and Cezanne in the early 1900s, becoming more of an abstract artist. Yet he began to develop his signature style. Besides the Mexican Revolution, he supported the Russian Revolution of 1917, and this inspired him to portray such issues in his murals, heavily leaning on things and images of the Mexican people and their history. This happened after he traveled to Italy also, doing the murals, when he became interested in Renaissance frescoes. He was hooked, and his career took off. Maybe I do need water. That's all right. I'll keep going. But he was hooked and his career took off. Diego and his contemporaries, muralist Jose Clemente Orazo and realist painter David Alfaro Siqueiros, were commissioned to do a mural in a government-sponsored program. He then joined the Mexican Communist Society and founded the Revolutionary Union of Technical Workers, Painters, and Sculptors. He worked on one series of frescoes, get this, from 1922 to 1928. Then in 1929, he married the young Frida Kahlo. They would be artistic soulmates, experiencing countless affairs for both of them. Uh, they divorced and then they married each other again. It was a very rocky, disturbing relationship. In fact, when they married the second time, what they had in the marriage contract was that they would not have sex together, I guess just with other people. Um, so they just wanted to be together as partners, agreeing on their political and artistic views. She loved him in spite of his philanderings, and he felt the same way about her. Frida was a great painter herself, yet she did not enjoy the notoriety that her husband enjoyed. She went with him, here we go, accompanied him to trips to the USA, and these included San Francisco, Detroit, and New York City. And even though he was no longer a member of the Communist Party, ironically, for him, that new spirit of the machine age, even though he wasn't a communist, he still had those beliefs. Indeed, for American capitalism was there as long as the money was there. In 1931, there was an important opening at an exhibit, and Diego, being the only artist after Henri Matisse, and this was at the Museum of Modern Art, so it's big time. This opening in New York City solidified him at this solo exhibit as a major artist. He didn't miss any receptions or parties at these events, but Frida attended some of them. And at these parties, she really longed for Mexico. She didn't really adhere to the company of all these rich industrialists. She said, "High society here turns me off. It is terrifying to see the rich having parties day and night, while thousands and thousands of people are dying of hunger. I don't know if I'm right or not. I'm only telling you what I feel." In 1932, Diego was given a huge blow to his success and to his ego when the Rockefellers and Rivera argued over his mural. The debate ended when the Rockefellers refused to accept the mural. See, they didn't like Lenin was in the mural, and that's kind of like Diego's purpose, his political fulfillment. So they did not accept the mural. They painted it over, and they had it destroyed. They objected to having Lenin and some other radical types in there. So much for that commission, though afterwards Diego would paint the mural on a smaller scale at the Palace of Fine Arts in Mexico City from photographs that he took of the original. I wanted to share more of Frida's story. Besides being the wife of Diego Rivera and an advocate for her husband's works, Kahlo was an artist herself. Unfortunately, she was not really recognized until right before her death. Yet her story begins when she is 15 years old. She suffers a catastrophic injury in an accident between a bus and a streetcar. She was riding in the bus at the time, and the streetcar had some sort of a long rod and on top of it, and it came down and went right through her body, and it pierced the area of her pubic bone and also through her spine, her pelvis, her collarbone, and her two ribs were also fractured. Um, she would suffer with this pain throughout her life. She never really healed, but she started painting when she was in bed just for months trying to be healed. And this is how she got into painting, through this injury. And the accident with piercing her pelvic bone, which was fractured, she suffered several miscarriages, and they never determined if this was the real reason or not, but I think it could have added to her complications. Well, she painted about her miscarriages. She painted images about the betrayal of her husband. Uh, she painted about so many of her experiences. She painted about her loves, about Diego, and mainly she painted portraits of herself, many portraits. Uh, the paintings were surreal, with symbolic meanings in most of them. So she is now, today, more widely known than her ex-husband, Diego. Mexican Jose Clemente Orazo, that's who we'll talk about next, is a muralist who was more expressive and showed emotion in his work compared to Rivera. Yet he also sought to concentrate on his Mexican heritage, but in a dramatic and brutal and harrowing style. He portrayed Aztecs and Mexicans. This is on page 508. Our textbook states, modern American society in the murals is filled with teachers brainwashing children, backstabbing generals, dead war heroes, and skeletal academics witnessing the birth of another of their kind. Only the modern laborer escapes Orazo's criticism. Next, let's look at the Distill movement. Piet Mondrian, this is on page 508 as well, was the most famous artist of this group. He felt that the most universal signs of human order were vertical and horizontal lines and the primary colors, red, orange, and blue. To him, this was humanity's greatest achievement. He believed his canvases, his paintings, would bring peace and calm and stability to humankind. For him, nature was equivalent to war, and rational intellectual beauty was equivalent to peace. That theory of form follows function, which is actually functionalism, came out of the Distill movement. They believed everything in an environment should be balanced. So I mentioned functionalism. It's better known as form follows function, that's on page 509, was the mantra for the German Bauhaus, a school of design founded in 1919. Architect Walter Gropius was the leader of this artistic collective, a collective fusing creative abilities with artistic and crafts into several disciplines, whether it be painting, sculpture, design, and other ones. Bauhaus literally means building house, and its designers sought to build new principles of design compatible with modern 20th century technology. One example in our book on page 509 is Marcel Breuer's armchair, designed in 1928. Clean lines are used in his economically manufactured chair. Also, a poster designed by Herbert Bayer shows the clean lines of type and print. This style greatly influenced the design worldwide, and Bauhaus was especially accepted in the United States. Brewer and Bayer emigrated to the U.S. following the closure of the school in 1933 by the Nazis. On to Harlem Renaissance. Still, now this is page 509. Harlem Renaissance was the home to many Black Americans of all economic classes. Entertainers such as Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong performed in clubs. Harlem drew, as our book says, artists, musicians, composers, actors, writers, poets, sculptors, scientists, and educators. I threw sculptors in there. Writer Langston Hughes and poet Conti Cullen resided in Harlem. It was an exciting, creative time, as the name says. It says Renaissance. It was a Renaissance era. Three sociological and historic ideas came together to produce this Renaissance. It was 1, the rich heritage of Africa; 2, slavery, it's slavery's legacy in America; and 3, modernism in the United States. Artist Aaron Douglas is one of the most important artists of this artistic time. He was a muralist best known for his masterpiece From Slavery Through Reconstruction, from aspects of Negro life. Themes in the mural reference emancipation, the growth of the Ku Klux Klan, and voting rights. The Harlem Renaissance movement lasted only 10 years. It was curtailed by the market crash of 1929, followed by the Great Depression. The Harlem Renaissance celebrated the lives of African Americans, their hopes and their dreams, and still that hope survives today. For homework, I'd like you to review chapter 22. We've gone through this before, and read from photojournalism. I'm doing well. Photorealism to page 520 to page 529. Excuse me. Even some of the new pages to be read should remind you of things that we have already covered. And it's a good thing we're through with that because I've lost my voice. So see you next week. Do pay attention to what I've written in the email concerning answering these questions. Really make it an effort. Please do. I expect the answers to the questions to be sent to me. All right? And do the homework, and see you next Tuesday in class at the school. All right. Thank you.